Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're diving into a topic that's really at the core of why some projects succeed in a big way, and, well, why others just don't. We are talking about project scope management. Think of it as the secret sauce for taking a brilliant idea and actually turning it into a finished project without all the chaos. So let's get right into it and see how it's done. So let me just kick things off with a question for you. What do you think is the number one reason that big projects, we're talking everything from building a new app to, say, planning a huge music festival, just totally fail or go ridiculously over budget? It's usually not a lack of talent or a bad idea. Nope. More often than not, it's a failure to control the one thing we're going to talk about today, the project's scope. So here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll nail down what project scope actually is. Then, we'll walk through the 6 main processes for managing it all. We're going to zoom in on the most important blueprint, called the WBS, see how it works with some real-world examples, and finally, figure out how to keep a project on track from beginning to end.
Okay, first things first. Before we can build anything, we need a solid foundation, right? So let's get super clear on what this word scope even means in the project management world.
So, at its heart, scope is really the whole picture. It's not just the final thing you're making. It's literally all the work and all the processes that have to happen to make that product a reality. It's what defines the boundaries of your project, what's in, and just as critically, what's out.
And this right here is a really, really important distinction. Think of it like this. Product scope is the what, the features of the app, the chapters in the book. But project scope is the how, all the actual work your team has to do to deliver that product. So project scope management is really all about controlling the how to make sure the what gets done perfectly. All right, so we get what scope is. Now, how do we actually manage it? Well, that brings us to the master plan, a series of 6 connected processes that guide you from the very start to the very finish. Now, I know this diagram might look a little intense, but don't worry, we are going to break it all down. Just think of it as the official roadmap for scope management. It shows every single step, from the initial idea all the way to final delivery. This is the exact framework professionals use to keep massive projects from completely flying off the rails. Let's just simplify that map into a clear path. It pretty much flows like this. First, you plan how you're going to manage the scope. Second, you collect every single requirement. Third, you define the scope with absolute precision. Fourth, and this is a big one, you create that blueprint called a WBS. And finally, you have to constantly validate and control that scope until all the work is done.
Okay, this is so important. This entire process, all 6 steps, it pretty much lives or dies based on step 2, collecting requirements. If you don't know exactly what your client or, your professor actually wants, you are just setting yourself up for a world of pain. Unclear expectations are the number 1 recipe for project disaster. Period. And this chart, wow, it shows you exactly why getting those requirements right up front is so critical. I mean, look at these numbers. Finding and fixing a mistake during the design phase, it's cheap, but finding that exact same mistake after the product is already out there can cost, as you can see, up to 30 times more. It's basically the difference between erasing a line on a blueprint versus tearing down a wall in a finished house. So how do the pros avoid that kind of expensive disaster? They use tools just like this one, a Requirements Traceability Matrix, or an RTM. It's basically a super detailed spreadsheet that tracks every single requirement, where it came from and what its status is. This simple table makes sure nothing gets forgotten, and it proves that every single feature you build is tied directly to an original request. And that brings us to what I think is the most powerful tool in the entire scope management toolkit. If collecting requirements is all about understanding the goal, then the work breakdown structure, or WBS, is the detailed blueprint for exactly how you're going to get there. So here's the official definition. The key phrase to focus on here is deliverable-oriented. See, this isn't just some random to-do list. It's a structured breakdown of all the project's major outputs, the deliverables, into smaller and smaller pieces until you've defined the entire scope of the project. And the magic trick for creating a WBS is a technique called decomposition. It sounds fancy, but I promise, you do this all the time. It's just taking a huge, overwhelming goal, like write a 20-page research paper, and breaking it down into smaller, manageable chunks, like choose a topic, find 10 sources, write the outline. Those tiny pieces at the very bottom of the WBS, those are called work packages. So why even bother with all this? Because a good WBS is like a project manager's superpower.
It organizes everything so nothing gets missed. It makes it so much easier to estimate how much time and money you'll need. And it gives you a clear framework for tracking your progress and assigning work. It's the rock-solid foundation for your entire project plan.
Okay, theory is great, but what does a work breakdown structure actually look like? Let's check out a few real-world examples to make it click.
Here we go, a perfect, easy-to-understand example. The main project is building a house. That's your level 1. The major deliverables, level 2, are things like the foundation, the structure, the interiors. And then, under each of those, you break it down even more into smaller work packages like dig earth, construct walls, and design interiors. See how it turns a massive project into clear, logical chunks? And this doesn't just work for construction, right? It works for creative projects too. Making a film gets broken down into big deliverables like idea development, hiring the crew, getting equipment, the actual shooting, and post-production. Each of those categories gets broken down even further. This makes sure every single step, from writing the script to the final movie premiere, is planned for. Now, what's so powerful about this is that it shows there isn't just one right way to build a WBS. On the left, you see the project is organized by the product itself, the different pages of a website. But on the right, it's organized by the project phases: design, construct, test. The best way to do it totally depends on your project. Are you more focused on the final pieces or on the stages of work you need to get through? Okay, you've done it. You collected your requirements, you defined the scope, and you built this beautiful WBS. The plan is perfect, but the job is not done. Now comes the hard part, actually sticking to that plan. And that brings us to our final 2 processes: validation and control. So let's be really clear about the difference here. Validate scope is all about checking in with your stakeholders and getting their official sign-off. It basically answers the question, is this what you asked for? Control scope, on the other hand, is all internal. It's about watching your team's work and managing any changes to the original plan. It answers the question, are we still building what we agreed to build? And the whole reason that control scope process is so vital is to prevent this absolute monster, scope creep. This is what happens when those little, hey, can you just add this one more thing requests start piling up. Without a formal process to manage those changes, your project just slowly expands until it's late, over budget, and totally off the rails. So let's bring all this home. Forget about massive construction projects for a minute and just think about your next big paper or group assignment. Before you write a single word, how could you use this idea of decomposition to create a simple work breakdown structure? How would that help you organize your work, avoid that last-minute all-nighter, and make sure you deliver exactly what's required? Something to think about. Thanks for tuning in.